Election results are just coming in. Here's our first look at one of the biggest races of the night. That is for Seattle mayor. Right now, Bruce Harrell has 65% of the vote. Lorena Gonzalez has 35%. Good evening. I'm Mark Wright.
I'm Joyce Taylor. We're following more than 700 races across Western Washington tonight. Our live election update continues in just seconds at King5.com and on our King 5 app with reaction from our political analysts. And we'll see you later tonight at 9, 10, and 11.
Thank you for staying with us on King5.com for a special election night update. Welcome. I'm Mark Wright.
Great to have you here. I'm Joyce Taylor. We want to first get right out live to the Belltown area. That is where Bruce Harrell is on the stage. Let's listen in.
About the issues we're fighting for. Jamie and Katie, my other family members, this was a family affair. And I will tell you, while I would like to think that they did it for me, they believed in me, but they believed in our message. And the reason you were invited here tonight, and I could look at all of you, the reason you were invited here tonight, well, let me be honest with you. A few people I saw and I said, how did they get in? Why are they here? I did ask the question, but that was only like 4 or 5 people. So minus those 4 or 5 people who I'll embrace and I will love, they are here. You are here because you played a role in my campaign. All of you played a role in my campaign, whether it was raising money, texting people, doorbelling, working at grocery stores, collecting those darn vouchers. You believed in what we're trying to do. We believe in this city. This city has awesome potential. And I will close by saying this, that I mentioned this several times, that when we talk about social justice and making sure we have a pathway of opportunity for everyone, that I'm just going to ask by show of hands. And I laugh a lot because that's what we're supposed to do sometimes. How many in here are half Japanese and half black? Raise your hand if you're half Japanese and half black. See that? Jimmy Rogers, 2-time Rose Bowl champ. Jimmy Rogers, put your hand down. And I say that not to say that, look at me, never. That is not the point of that. The point is that when I grew up and we talked about race issues and we talked about the content of one's character, it was very difficult for me as a child. I just didn't know where I fit in, and so I made it a life's mission to not look at just race. It's apparent. We celebrate our diversity, whether it's religious or any way you define diversity. We celebrate that. But I always had to struggle to find out what we had in common. What we have in common, that pathway of commonality. And I will tell you, when you celebrate that, Seattle, when you celebrate that, you can do amazing things. I once heard a quote, and it said this. The quote went something like this. It said, when after harnessing the winds, the tides, and gravity, we will harness for God the energies of love. And then for the second time in our history, we will have discovered fire. We're going to put Seattle on fire with our love. We're going to have a new conversation on homelessness, a new conversation on education, on transportation, on climate change, a new discussion because it's going to be rooted on the love we have for each other and the love we have for this city. Thank you very much, Seattle voters. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that's Bruce Harrell sounding very optimistic. After 131,000 votes came in, Harrell has 65% of the vote to Lorena Gonzalez's 35%. So an optimistic party in Belltown. So we're going to break down the night's biggest races for you right now.
We are joined by our King 5 political analyst, Ron Sims, former King County executive and deputy secretary of HUD in the Obama administration, along with Scott McClellan, former White House press secretary under President George W. Bush.
So let's start with a look at where things stand in some of the big races here in Seattle and in greater King County. In the race for King County executive right now, the incumbent Dow Constantine has 58% of the vote. His challenger, Joe Wynn, the state senator, with 42% of the vote.
Let's go to King County District 3. Incumbent Kathy Lambert versus Sarah Perry. You can see here, this is still a pretty close race. There are still lots of ballots to be counted, but Perry is winning at this point, 55% of the vote to Lambert's 45%. You may remember Lambert faced intense criticism last month after many felt a flyer that she sent to her constituents was racist.
Let's bring on our King 5 election analysts right now, Ron Sims and Scott McClellan. Ron, let's begin with you on the Seattle mayor's race. 65% of the vote, at least in the first counting of the ballots. What's your take?
I think that the person who has 65% of the vote at this time will be the mayor. That's been the history when you have the early numbers in the general election and the margins that are this significant. So I think that you're looking at Mayor Harrell.
Scott, I want to bring you into the conversation here. What do you think was the differentiation point? What was the point of distinction between these two candidates, Harrell and Gonzalez?
Well, I think if you look at it from a big picture, that the difference was that voters are saying they want a more pragmatic, progressive approach, that we're moving away from, in Seattle, the activist, ideological, progressive approach. It's very clear by the margin of that vote you're seeing tonight for Harrell, and I agree with Ron. That was all but an acceptance speech from him a minute ago. He is going to be the next mayor. This will close. Recent history shows us that it may close 7 or 8 percentage points here before the final votes are all in. But leading 65-35, that's a strong win for Harrell, and he may well stay over 60% when all votes are counted. Wow. So I think you look at the key issues: policing, public safety and policing, and the differentiation there, the homelessness issue and an issue around encampments at parks, and then single-family zoning became a big issue for homeowners and neighborhood groups.
Yeah. Gonzalez stating that she wanted to cut the police department budget at one point, did not favor homeless camp sweeps. Harrell held just the opposite position. Ron, let me ask you, that attack ad against Harrell that came up fairly late in the campaign that some said was racist, do you think that was a game changer?
It was a game changer with a lot of people, and it was an inappropriate ad, and she's admitted to that. But it was one of those ads that one would not expect to see in a mailing for a mayorship, and I think a lot of people simply said enough of this, and they wanted to go back to they wanted a city that seemingly was not going to have those kinds of differences mailed out or talked about or discussed or campaigned upon. They want a unified city of Seattle, and they got one.
Scott, I want to just wrap things up with you. Do you think tonight's election, if this result stands with the mayor's race, do you think this is a turning point for the city of Seattle, given all of the turmoil that we've seen over the past 18 months to 2 years?
I think this was a turning point election for Seattle, given what we've been through the last couple of years in the pandemic, going back to the CHOP or the Chaz, and at the aftermath of the horrible killing of George Floyd, and all that has happened since then, and then looking at downtown and what has happened in downtown Seattle, and people saying they want a more livable, vibrant city, and we've got to address homelessness and public safety in order to get back to that vibrant economy and livable city that people are voting for tonight, I think.
All right, Scott, Ron, thank you so much. We'll be back to you in just a minute. Meantime, communities in the North and South Sound are voting for mayors tonight, so let's break down some of those races for you. To the south, TACOMA mayor incumbent Victoria Woodards right now is leading with 58% of the vote against her challenger, Steve Haverly, 42% of the vote. Woodards' campaign manager just declared victory in an email to King 5. So you have that there. Up north in Everett, incumbent Cassie Franklin is taking on Steve Ose. And Franklin right now, the incumbent, with a commanding lead, 74% to Ose's 26%.
We want to get back to our analysts, Ron and Scott. The King County Council race between Kathy Lambert and Sarah Perry, that is one that we're watching very closely as well. As you know, Lambert came under fire after she sent out that controversial campaign flyer that many people found to be racist. I'm going to start with you, Scott. Did she handle that appropriately?
No, she didn't handle it well at all. She should have never run that flyer. It should have been nixed from the very beginning. She should have recognized the problems with it, the racial undertones, and everything else about it. And I think that really was a big game changer in this race. I think that what we're seeing tonight is going to be hard for her to overcome, and that you're going to have and you also had a strong campaign by Sarah Perry. Let's look at that. She ran a smart, strong campaign, and she was really active out there trying to earn the vote, the support of the voters. But then when that flyer came along, that did Kathy Lambert in, I think, based on what we're seeing tonight. We'll see when the final results, but that's going to be a hard margin to overcome, particularly when more progressive votes are going to be coming in after election night.
Hey, coming out of the primary, Lambert was ahead by 4 percentage points. Ron, do you think that was the game changer for her?
I think without a doubt. Without a doubt. She's in a community that is well educated, much younger, and I think that they looked and said, no, we don't want somebody representing us with these kinds of attitudes. And it showed up in this election.
Let's look at the numbers now for King County Executive. Dow Constantine, as you know, going for a 4th term. His challenger is Joe Wynn. He is seeking re-election, and his challenger performed pretty well during the primary. So, Ron, I'm starting with you on this one. You also served as King County Executive. What can you tell us about this race and how both of these candidates ran their candidacies?
Both of the candidates ran a very good race. But I think it's going to be difficult to overcome the numbers that you see posted at this time of day or this early in the counts that County Executive Dow Constantine has. He's well known. He has a record that people know about, and I believe that's why you see him being sent back for another term. What my big hope is that I can't wait to see the combination of County Executive Dow Constantine and Mayor Bruce Harrell, because the county has a lot of jurisdiction inside of Seattle, and to see both of them working together, we will see a Seattle that was a dream of many of us, but will come true.
We're going to keep watching the numbers. There are still votes to be counted, and we will get back to both of you. We are keeping a very close eye on a few other races. As you know, in Seattle, we want to get to more results for you. Let's talk about the Seattle City Council race. This is position 9, Nikita Oliver versus Sarah Nelson. This is a citywide at-large seat, which is being left vacant by Lorena Gonzalez, who, as you know, is running for mayor. And do we have the numbers? Stand by. We'll get them. There you see Nikita Oliver down by about 20 percentage points at this point. Sarah Nelson with 60% of the vote. Oliver with 40%.
All right, let's go to the District 8 for the council. Again, this is an at-large seat, and right now, Teresa Mosqueda has 53% of the vote. Kenneth Wilson has 47%. This was expected to be one of the really close battles between Mosqueda and Wilson. Mosqueda emerged from the primary with about 60% of the vote. Wilson took home 16% in the primary, a very crowded field of 11 candidates, but he has made up a lot of ground. So at this point, this race is far from over. Again, City Council District 8 there.
A lot going on across Western Washington, more than 130 mayoral races. As of noon today, about 35% of the ballots in Seattle had been turned in. In King County, they're expecting it to be well over 30%, possibly 40%. So there is a lot that we're still watching. For now, that's all the time we have on King5.com. Our live coverage will continue at 9 o'clock on Kong and at 11 on King 5.
That's right. If you just pull up King5.com or you download the app, all of these numbers are updated real time. I've got my phone open right here on the set for up-to-the-minute election results. Just go there. King5.com, the King 5 mobile app. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you at 11 o'clock tonight.